But with hektar chalavim would actually be an avera. I don't know if it would be a lav, but could be a lav.
It's even a machlokes if Kriyishma is midraisa in the first place.
The whole mitzvah Kriyishma is midraisa. The mitzvah Kriyishma. It's a shiur if you have to say all of the parashas of Kriyishma, but saying Kriyishma I think is for sure deraisa.
Not so fast.
But with hektar chalavim would actually be an avera.
Sorry, we're live.
But with hektar chalavim would actually be an avera. I don't know if it would be a lav.
We're nervous.
Is anyone bothered why we don't start with how do we know there's such a mitzvah?
That's what the Gemara jumps with.
How far in?
The very first question.
The first question?
Yeah, the first question.
How do you know it's a...
I suspect someone learned this before.
Okay, I learned the first part of the Gemara. How do you know it's a mitzvah to say Kriyishma?
The Gemara asks Tana Heichakoi. The Tana is like jumping in the middle of an issue, asking a question. What's the basis? What did you learn that prompted you to ask that question? Right, so that's really what the Gemara is asking. But before we get to the Gemara, I just wanted to point out a couple of things. First of all, you made a very good point that a korban that's noisar, that's left out all night, that would be also to put onto the mizbeach. Kriyishma, if you miss Kriyishma, there's no issue that you are going to be over by saying it later. It's no worse than korban Torah. So the Achronim actually have a machlokes as to whether or not Chatzos passes, should you still say Kriyishma. So I believe the Rabbi Yomi learns that, I'm just repeating what I heard from Rabbi Elephant, don't think I looked up to Rabbi Yomi. I believe Rabbi Yomi says that once Chatzos passes, you should not say Kriyishma anymore. Now, I remember by the Litvisha, Shkia is like, if you have a mincha after Shkia, you're going straight to Gehenna. It's the worst thing. So I remember, I have a friend who was more of a Haimish boy. Shkia was a suggestion. It was merely a suggestion, right? So it was after Shkia, and he was in the good mincha, and there was a Litvish guy in Eretz Yisrael when we were learning, and she says, so after Shkia, you can't have a mincha. So my friend started laughing at him. He says, Shkia is the chumrah of the Gra to be makbid, to say Kriyishma before Shkia. But if you don't pass like the Gra, there are many Rishonim who hold that night comes by tzeis. So if you haven't yet daven mincha by Shkia, of course you're mechuyev to still daven mincha. No, I don't believe it. So he says, let's go to Rabbi Yashiv. So he schlepped the guy to Rabbi Yashiv, and he told Rabbi Yashiv, after Shkia, can I still daven mincha? He says, of course you should daven mincha. It's still day. It's only the sheet of the Gra that people are makbid on to try to daven before Shkia. But avada after Shkia, you're supposed to daven mincha.
So the shita that night started by tzeis was before the Gra? That's the Rabbeinu Tam?
The shita of
when the
Shkia was before the Gra too. The Gra just pointed it out.
No, according to when we have the Gra Zman or the Magen Avraham Zman,
that's Kriyishma in the morning. That doesn't do Shkia.
That's not Shkia. No, but that Bab of davens at night when they daven mincha after Shkia.
So that goes with Rabbeinu Tam's man.
Right, so that's what I mean. Rabbeinu Tam at a certain point, Rabbeinu Tam was before the Gra, as far as I know, right?
That's right.
And Rabbeinu Tam says that decided that it starts at night time.
That's right.
And the Gra came later on and then said 300 years later, 500 years later, it says no, it's is that the machlokes?
Yeah, I think so. The answer is probably simple. The Gra probably got up earlier, so night time had to start earlier because by Shkia he was probably exhausted already. So the Achronim do speak out that even though you pass Chatzos, since there's no harm done in saying Kriyishma later anyway, so unlike when they made a gzera not to blow shofar on Shabbos, there we don't want you to blow shofar no matter what because it could lead to a malacha. But Kriyishma, there's no harm done saying it later. Even the Chachamim hold.
But are you yaitz to Kriyishma?
So what do
you mean no harm done? You're getting a mitzvah.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's not only no harm done, there'll be harm done if you don't say Kriyishma after Chatzos. That's right. Okay. The Rabbi Elephant spoke out that why does the Mishnah start with the question? Why doesn't it start off with the fact? So Rebbe Elfin says that to teach us that the only way you could stag in learning is if you always ask questions. As the famous lawyer who fights for people on disability says, there's no such thing as a dumb question. You know
Yeah,
wax. There's no such thing as a dumb question. You always have to ask questions. That's the only way you get things clear. It'll be hard if you don't say Krishma. Okay, Zok Tehillah Gemara. Tana Heichakoi. Where is the Tana standing? What's he thinking about? What's he busy with? The Katanim Me'emosai. He's asking a question, from when do you say Krishma? What do you mean from when? Who's talking about Krishma? Visu, the second question the Gemara asks, is Mai Shna. What is the difference? The Tani, the Arvis Bereisha. Why are we starting in the evening? Why are we starting off with Krishma of Arvis, listening to Shachris Bereisha? Why don't we discuss Krishma that's said in the morning? That should be discussed first. And for the Gemara, Tana Akrakai. The Tana was in the middle of learning the pasuk. The Chsiv, it says in the pasuk, B'shach b'cha u'v'kumecha. When are we supposed to say Krishma? B'shach b'cha u'v'kumecha. When we go to sleep and when we wake up. So we discussed the very first Krishma that the Torah mentions, which is B'shach b'cha. V'achi katani. And this is what the Tana meant to say. Zman Krishma, the Shchiva, the Krishma, which is mandated during the time when people go to sleep, Emas, from when is it? Zok the Gemara, Misha Shekayhanim Nechnasen Lechel B'Trumasen. So the Mishnah answers that question. The Chiyuv begins when the Kayhanim start eating Truma. Now, there's a very fundamental Machlokes, Rashi, and Tosfos over here.
Doesn't answer the first question.
Yeah.
No, Heichakoi, the Tana was learning the pasuk of B'shach b'cha v'kumecha.
Why didn't it start off
Yeah,
first
you're saying the first question is how do you know that there's a mitzvah?
Oh,
You
so that-
interpret that to mean how do you know there's such a mitzvah?
Very good question. Very good question. So that answers the Gemara's kasha. The Gemara wanted to know where was the Tana holding that led the Tana to ask the question. David's asking one step further. If that's where the Tana's holding, why didn't he tell us? Right?
Yeah.
Why, that's your question. Why doesn't he speak out? I'm learning about Krishma, and now let's ask the question. Why does he start off with the question without laying down the facts first?
Right. It presupposes that there is a mitzvah. We don't know. They should tell us that there's such a mitzvah, and here's the raya, the psukim.
He says it.
First say the pasuk.
Rashi said, the Rashi said, "B'sham Mama Cholas Hatiyah." That's right.
You start
I
off
just
with
said,
there's a
should
pasuk
say
that
the
says
pasuk.
B'sham Chov
So it goes back to what Rav Mendel Kaplan always taught us. Is that
How do you know it's not referring to Limud Torah in general? How do you know it's referring to there's such a thing as Kriya Shema? It doesn't say explicitly anywhere that you say that there's such a thing as Kriya Shema.
So first the Tana should establish that there is a mitzvah of Krishma.
That's what you would expect.
It's a very good question. I don't know. It's a very good question.
And the raya is for it. Because there's no explicit
The pasuk v'shinantam
of-
lovnach v'dibar tabam, which
It could be-
Maheka
it could
is
be-
speaking
it
about
could be Limud
Krishma,
Torah.
maybe it's Limud Torah. There? That's a very good question. Now I have homework. Okay. So
Is that the style of the Mishnah every time we do it?
It's a weird
a
style
weird-
to start. When's the Zman for it? You don't even know there's such a thing yet. How do we know there's such a thing?
What's the Mishnah style in other prakim? There's a certain assumption that
Okay.
they know, and then the Gemara goes in minola, right? You got to leave some parnusa for the Gemara for the Amoraim.
Leave something on the table.
Right. I think so. I think the Mishnah was written with that in mind, that you have a
already
certain
knew that
knowledge,
already,
that you
yeah.
we assume you know.
Rashi says that he says it's different than Rashi. He says that since it says Me'emasai, that tells you that it was Pasha to the Tana. And therefore the Gemara then steps in, okay, where was it Pasha from? But not just that Mehechokai, but the Lashon of Me'emasai seems to imply that it was Pasha, and now next step, and that's where the Gemara comes in.
So it goes back to Rav Mendel's story. Rav Mendel taught us, Rav Mendel Kaplan taught us, the one that's not alive. Rav Mendel Kaplan taught us
He's lying.
that every time there's a chesura mechsera, is it an editing mistake? Was there a publishing error? No, a chesura mechsera is the whole purpose of writing down the Mishnayos was because people were forgetting it. It was an Eis Las L'Shem, a Thoris or a Secha. So even when the Mishnayos were written, they were written in very, very concise form, giving us the minimal amount of information that through Pilpul, through the analysis of the Gemara, we'll be able to extract the full intention of the Tana. But the Tana is not wordy. The Tana just provides us with the bare minimum. So with that theme, it makes sense that they would say, because from that you would figure out on your own the Torah
That's an
Shabbat
answer to
portion.
everything. Yeah.
That's
All
a very
right,
good answer to everything.
Any kasha, you can use that answer
That's
for.
right.
Okay, and
That's right.
you don't need a Gemara.
That's right. No,
Just
the Gemara has to demonstrate that there was enough information for us to extract what we needed to extract from the words of the Mishnah. But there has to be something that the Gemara can grab onto to analyze. So that's how Rabbi Bentley used to always explain the Chesur and Mechsuros. Otherwise, they had terrible editors in those days. Okay. So there's a very big machlokes. Rashi asks a question over here. Rashi asks, in those days, apparently, people used to daven Ma'ariv early. And we're assuming...
Or not at all, by the way. You see that they didn't... If they would have davened Ma'ariv, they would have learned Krishma, right? These guys who came back from the party, the sons of Rabbi Gamliel, right?
Why did they have a minyan at the wedding? Every wedding I go to, there's at least 40 minyanim. And by the time they asked me the last one, I forgot. Did I daven? I don't remember. It was 6 hours ago.
So Rashi does ask the kasha, and from the way Rashi responds, this kasha will be answered. Why didn't they daven Ma'ariv earlier? So Rashi asked the kasha. In those days, they used to daven Ma'ariv early, and that was definitely before Tzeis HaKochavim. So how were they mekayim the mitzvah of Krishma? So Rashi says, let's see if I could find a Rashi. Rashi, it's the second Rashi on the Amud. Atzoif Hashmar Rishayna, Shlusha Laila Kedem Afarish B'Gemara, Musham Veilach Over Zman, Tolei Mikri Suzman Shchiva, V'loi Karinim Bei B'Shach B'cha. Umekama Hachi, and earlier than that, Nami Lav Zman Shchiva, Leficha HaKoirei Koidem Lochein, Lo Yotza Yudei Chavasei. So now Rashi asks the kasha, Im Kain, Lo Makari Noise Beveis HaKnesses. If they davened Ma'ariv, in those days they davened Ma'ariv early, it was definitely before this Tzeis HaKochavim discussed in the Mishnah. Why B'chalal do we say Krishma in Ma'ariv if clearly that will not be?
It's referring
It's referring to Tzeis. Yeah, yeah, it's referring to Tzeis. But it's only after Tzeis.
That's later than our Erev Shemesh. Rashi says it's Erev Shemesh. K'yam shenitnu b'todim v'arv shemosha.
Okay, there's going to be. We're going to get into. We're going to fine tune what all the times are.
Okay.
But whatever it is, the timing is.
When they davened was
It
before.
was before all of these, right? So Rashi's asking. So why did they bother even saying Krishma in Ma'ariv? So Rashi, it's kedei lamoid b'tfila mitoich divrei Torah. It's so that they should have the divrei Torah of Krishma in the mitzvah in the Ma'ariv tefillah. And then Rashi says. Therefore, you have to say Krishma again when it gets dark. So now the children of Rabbi Gamliel, of course, they davened Ma'ariv by the wedding, but they davened Ma'ariv early, and they didn't have a chance to say Krishma over again when it became legally night. Now Rashi says another big chiddush. Uvikriyas parsha rishona shadim kari al mitasa yatsa. Rashi holds it, which is disputed by many Rishonim. Rashi holds that to be Mekayim, the mitzvah of Krishma, you only have to say the first parsha of Krishma. That's enough. And that we say, the first parsha of Krishma and Krishma Shalamita, that's really when we're being Mekayim, the mitzvah of Krishma. Tosfos, the long Tosfos, jumps all over Rashi. And one of the questions he asks is, the Brachos Krishma are in Ma'ariv. So could you possibly say that the Brachos Krishma are in Ma'ariv? And we're saying Krishma later. Right? That's one of the questions he asks. He also holds
But
that
even if you say all three parshas, you're not going to say Brachos Krishma. If you daven Ma'ariv early and you say Krishma over again.
right there we would. But when we daven Ma'ariv early, it's still night according to some shittas, right? After plug, and that's what Tosfos says. Tosfos says really they were Mekayim the mitzvah's Krishma while they were davening Ma'ariv because they davened after plug. And since they davened after plug, it was legally night according to certain shittas, and they were actually Mekayim, the mitzvah of Krishma, in Ma'ariv. According to Rashi, who learns that you could only say Krishma later, and it's referring to Krishma Shalamita, you see a big chiddush, is that the mitzvah of Birchos Krishma is totally independent from the mitzvah of Krishma. And you can actually say Birchos Krishma by day, yet you're doing the mitzvah of Krishma by night. And that's very clear from Rashi.
The Brachos Krishma by days might say both, they're not a separate mitzvah.
Well, the Brachos Krishma is a mitzvah in and of itself, I guess.
Yes.
And even though the Krishma is not happening until much later.
He's in the evening, Brachos.
Is there any other
Myra.
mitzvah
Oh,
you can
that's
say
what
a
you said
bracha
Myra.
and during the day and the I don't think
From
you-
a
Later
relevant,
on
it sounds
you'll
like
think-
there were other examples. He just didn't share them.
Oh.
But he's saying this is a Yisod and Shas.
Really?
It's
I
a concept you see.
I can't
So-
think of another mitzvah.
So we'll have to keep up our radar screens to find one, because he said there's a shita who allows that. The other thing Tosha says, of course, is that you can't be sasri adadi, meaning you can't daven mincha after plug and then ma'ariv after plug. If you're going to daven ma'ariv after plug and that'll be your night, you have, of course, have to daven mincha before plug, which means when you make early Shabbos, you have to come on time, because if you don't get mincha before plug, you can't do ma'ariv after plug.
There's a minion in Borough Park, all the Hasidim used to come Friday night, but then, or they wouldn't be there Friday night, they'd have it late Friday night, but then Motzei Shabbos, they'd all be by the Lufisher minion.
Oh, that's not a problem. That's officially not a problem, because Tarti de Sasri is only a problem on the same day. You cannot daven mincha after plug and then daven ma'ariv right after that. But today you're allowed to daven mincha before plug, and tomorrow you could daven mincha after plug. So you're actually allowed to do that. You see, it's good to learn. You can find out
Yeah,
kulas.
but then your Shabbos is the whole Shabbos.
So that's your loss.
No, I'm saying you don't have a full.
You know, the full Shabbos. That's why the Satmar Rebbe used to make it a point to daven mincha when it was like dark outside. And once a Litvish goes, last time, I don't understand. It's not like you're busy before. Whatever you were doing before, you could have done later. To daven mincha a little earlier. So Satmar Rebbe said, the reason why I daven mincha so late is because I want to scream in the streets with my actions that it's day until that point. So that Chas v'Shalom Yidden shouldn't let Shabbos out early, and if they see that I'm davening the mincha now, they won't dare do malacha now on the Motzei Shabbos. I don't know if it worked.
Wow.
But that's why the Satmar Rebbe did it. Because that's more weiter. So when Tana Hechagoy to Tani Meimasai Vesu Ma'ishno the Tani Ba'arvis Bereisha, listen to Shachs Bereisha. So tomorrow Tana Kroi Koi Tichsev B'Shach B'Chuv Chamecha V'Hachi Yatanis. So Man Krishma the Shchiva Amos Mishah Shekanim Nechnasen Lechel B'Trumosan. So the Mefarshim speak a lot about how the first mitzvah that a bar mitzvah encounters when he becomes bar mitzvah is Krishma, and that's one of the reasons why the Masechta, why did the Tana decided? Oh, we're going to get there in a second. Why did the Tana decide to start with the mitzvah of Krishma b'dafka? So those are those who say it's because it's about Yiras Shamayim, and you have to have Yiras Shamayim before you learn Torah, so it starts off with the Yiras Shamayim. But there are those who say that it's because it's the first mitzvah that a bar mitzvah does. And the first mitzvah that a bar mitzvah does has to be done with the ganze ganzkai. So there's a shaila if you're allowed to daven ma'ariv early by a bar mitzvah. So there's a story with the Belzer Rebbe, the Shavini Rav, were by a bar mitzvah, and often by a bar mitzvah they're mechabed the bar mitzvah boy to bench. So the bar mitzvah boy benched, and he drank roiv kois. So the Shavini Rav was there, and who else was there? The Belzer Rebbe. The Belzer Rebbe tells the boy, you have to drink the whole kois. So the Shavini Rebbe says, what do you mean? What do you mean that? Roiv kois is good enough. So the Belzer Rebbe says, his first mitzvah, there's no compromising on it. It's his very first mitzvah. Later on in life, you want to start slacking off, it's one thing. But the very first mitzvah, you got to do 100%. So it's the same thing with Krishma. That's why you should have at least by the bar mitzvah, Ma'ariv should be late. So his first mitzvah of Krishma should be done properly, 100%. Now the other question he asks is, how could the Mishnah say that the Kohanim, though we say Krishma when the Kohanim come to eat Truma, how could the Kohanim eat Truma? They didn't say Krishma yet. Right? It says that you say Krishma at the times where the Kohanim would normally be eating Truma. If that's the time where you're supposed to say Krishma, then they can't eat Truma. They have to be saying Krishma. So they're Medaik in the Loshen. That's why it says Mishash HaKohanim Nichnosen Lechel B'Trumosan. They only come in to eat, but before they eat, they have to say Krishma. There are other shittas who learn that if you're doing a mitzvah, you're allowed to do the mitzvah of Echilas Truma even before the mitzvah of Krishma. Zakmor Viboy Yisema, another reason why we discuss Krishma at night first is Yalef Mibriyas Shalolim. The Tana was referring to Briyas Olam. T'chsiv Ayerev Vayiveker Yom Echad. Now Rashi speaks out, of course, that this only answers why the Tana discusses the Krishma Shal Arvis at night. It doesn't answer Tana Hechakoi. So the Tana decided to deal with the night Krishma is because that's the order of our day. Our day starts with the night before. In fact, the more Ihachi Seifa, the Katani, the next mission that says B'Shachar Mevorech Shtayim Lefanea V'Achas Lacharel. Krishma Shal Shachris, we make 2 brachas before, 1 bracha afterwards. Uve'erev Mevorech Shtayim Lefanea U'Shtayim Lacharel. Why is the Tana discussing the halachas of Krishma Shal Shachris first with the theme that we just discussed? The Tana should be talking about Krishma Shal Arvis first. Listen to the Arvis Bereisha. And for the Gemara, Tana Pasach Ba'arvis V'Hadar Tana B'Shachris. The Tana, when it was introducing the mitzvah of Krishma, the Tana started with the Krishma Shal Arvis because of the reasons given in the Gemara. And then the Tana addressed the chiyuv of when to say Krishma by day. At the Koy B'Shachris, once the Tana was talking about Shachris, Parish Mili the Shachris, he elaborated more on the halachas of Shachris, Fadi Parish Mili the Arvis, which is really typical of a conversation. Things, the natural flow of a conversation would work that way. Omar Mar. So now we're going to get down into greater detail as to what these times are when the starting for Krishna starts.
Often when you see a Rashi and when a Rashi interprets a pasuk in the Torah, and there's a question in the Torah and there's an answer, 2 questions and 2 answers, Rashi says al rishon v'al achra and achra, right? So they're an intelligent person, that's how he answers a question. First question first, second question second.
That's right. But it's also possible that once he answers the second question, he'll elaborate on the second question before he'll go back to elaborate on the answer to the first question.
Okay.
So when do Kohanim eat Truma? Going back to Shlomi's kasha, right? Zok Gemara, Mishas Tzeis HaKarchovim. It's actually night. Rashi Shehu Gemar Bias HaShemesh. So this is exactly the question you asked. You asked, it's Uvah HaShemesh. So the Bias HaShemesh means the end of the Bias HaShemesh, meaning when it's all the way down. In fact, Gemara, if that's the case, why speak in riddles? Listni Mishas Tzeis HaKarchovim. Why doesn't the Mishnah be very explicit and say precisely what time it is? So tomorrow, Milsa Agav Orchik Mashmalan. Again, the Tana is always trying to squeeze the maximum amount of information into the minimum amount of text. The Tana is also trying to express his opinion on when the Kohanim are allowed to eat Truma, and that is Mishas Tzeis HaKarchovim.
Charge per word.
Yeah, well,
The printers. Again, the whole concept of writing Mishnayos down was a big compromise. It was a big compromise, so they have to write the minimum text.
What does Truma have to do with when a Kohen can eat Truma after he's done?
It happens to be the same time. Because it happens to be the same time. In fact, the more and what the Tana is also getting another bit of information out of it is the kapara loima akva, that if a kohen is also mechusar kippurim, which would require that he brings a carbon, that would not stop him from eating truma at night once it's tzeis hakachavim. Kidetanya, like we learned in a brisa, more explicit, referring to Kohanim, it says uba shemesh v'tar, when the sun comes down, the kohen is now tahar, and we learn from there. It's only sunset that is between the kohen and his being able to eat truma. But the fact that he still has to bring karbonos, that might stop him from eating kachim, but that will not stop him from eating truma. So now the Gemara opened up a whole new issue, and the Gemara is trying to say that the makor for the rules of when the kohanim can eat truma are based on the pasuk. It says in Vayikra, Uva Shemish V'Taher, the Achar Yoichal Min HaKachim Kilach Mahu. So, frank the Gemara. Umimai, the Hai Uba Shemesh, Bias HaShemesh. Why are you so sure that Uva Shemesh means sundown, and then the high v'tohar is tir yoima, and the kohen is Torah now to eat truma because the day ended and we're now at night and there's no action required, maybe you read it differently. Dilma bias oiroi hu. Maybe bias Hashemesh means the sun coming up. Maybe it means sunrise. Umay v'tir tir gavra. And what does v'tir means? It means the kohen has to take an action and do something to become Torah, and that would mean bringing a carbon. And this is how Rashi learns the kasha. Tosfos learns it a little bit differently. Omar Rabba bar Rav Shila, so Emfred Rabba bar Rav Shila, Im Kain, if that's how you would want to translate the pasuk, that it's referring to sunrise, and it requires action on behalf of the kohen, meaning he has to bring his karbonos before he's allowed to eat truma, lemakra v'yitar, which is a verb, and the kohen should make himself Torah. My v'tor, which is more passive, it's just stating that this happens automatically. It's more mistaber to say tar yoima, that the mere fact that the day is over, that automatically allows the kohen to eat truma. Kadamri inchi, like people say, Arav Shimsha, when the sun goes down, ba'at ki yoima, and the day has passed. So it's all passive. There's no action required by the kohen to be able to truma. B'marava, Hoder Rabba bar Shila lo shmielu. They didn't hear Rabba bar Shila's svara of being medayik from the fact that the pasuk says v'toyer and not v'yitar, and therefore they had a question about how to understand this pasuk. Hayu ba shemesh bia shimshahu umay v'tir tir yoima, idilma bias oirehu umay v'tir tir gavra.
These are really independent kashas. Why can't you learn that ba shemesh means sunrise and v'tir means it happens automatically? It seems to be connecting the two, but it's really not.
That's a very good point. Do you hear what he's asking? He's asking why are they connected? Why are they connected? That's a very good question. Maybe it means
you have to wait till the morning, and in the morning is when you bring a carbon.
So why can't the morning just be when morning comes? Just like when night comes, you automatically Torah, like we learn, like the halach is. It could be that when the morning comes, you automatically Torah. You're done. And we learn over here that and the Gemara just told us that the kapara is not makar.
So your kasha is a very good kasha, because the way Tosfos learns uva shemesh, he actually does not learn like Rashi that it means in the morning. He actually means earlier in the afternoon, not full nightfall. So
he's arguing about that.
And he still knows v'tir means you have to bring your carbon the next day.
Uh-huh.
So in fact, it's not necessarily related. The only thought that I can think is from afternoon to night is a change of day. So I understand that today's another day. Now the kohen should be able to eat truma. But the fact that it went from night to day, why should that change? Why should that change anything? In the way our days are, the night precedes the day. What's the significance of daybreak? Unless it's because you could not bring a carbon. The only significance of daybreak is now you're allowed to bring a carbon. You can't bring a carbon at night. So they had the shaila. Let me see what the Bach says. The Aleph. Where's the Bach?
It's not the only significance. There's a lot of other significance. We just learned the carbon you can't eat when you can eat a whole night. Hector Chalov and Abrams all night, except.
Right, that's exactly the point. The significance of the day is that now you can bring karbanos.
Yeah.
Right, so that's why it's logical to say that if a Torah means sunrise, it's relevant to karbanos. And that's why there'd be a svar that you need to bring the carbon before they can eat it. Here's the Bach. The Hodor Pashtila Mebraisa. Then they were poished to Shaila from Mebraisa. Midakatani Mebraisa. Simon Ladover says Hakachavim. Since the Braisa says Hakachavim, Shema Aminah must be that at least the Tana understood it as be a Shimshahu, Maivatir Tiryoima. So they didn't bring a raya from the Taich in the pasuk like Rabba bar Shila. Rather, they just brought a raya that another Tana clearly states that it means Tzesek Echavim. Okay, so now we're going to get into the nitty gritty of exactly what timing this is. And when we're all done, I think we're still not going to be sure, but we're still going to get into the nitty gritty. Amar Uraminu, we found another timing for this. When an ani goes to eat dinner. Ad shah sha'imid lipater b'soich sudasai. So the mitzvah of Krishma starts, the Zman Krishma starts when the ani goes to eat dinner, and the mitzvah of Krishma ends when the ani finishes eating, because that's when people don't go to sleep anymore. So Zok Gemara, Seifa Vadi Pligam Asnisim. The Seifa, the end shiur which means that surely does not stem with any one of the three shitas of when it ends, either the Shmur Rishona, Chatzois, or all night. This is earlier. The Oni is Oimed Lifatim Zechsudasoi is earlier than all of these three Zmanim. So that's for sure inconsistent with our Mishnah.
What's the significance of an ani eating as opposed to a regular person? They eat
at different times.
Rashi says he doesn't have candles. He has to eat earlier.
Food hot there, yeah.
He doesn't have a light, so he's gonna.
So he doesn't have cancer. In other words, he
wants to see what he's eating, so he's gonna eat
candles
earlier.
are luxury. Food is
candles is luxury.
Also, if it's a gvir, he has enough food to last him all night. Only has to eat for a couple of minutes because then he eats some food.
But it's not
That's
Yeah,
the
but
end time.
He starts early, ends early.
So-
it's not a specific time. It's very vague.
No, that means
No,
it's
it's
still
dinner.
he's going
It's gotta
to
be
eat
dinner
till
time,
the
but it's gotta
end.
be before-
Because as so long there's a little bit of day.
Every onion is not the exact same time.
So I guess there was something that was typical.
can't see the
There
salt.
was an area that was typical. But I want
You can't taste the salt
the
anymore.
Gemara is
It's too
going
dark.
to really compare all of these times to each other. So let's see how the Gemara figures it out. Would you say that the ratio, meaning the timing of when the ani goes to eat, is that consistent with the time that the kohen goes to eat truma? It is consistent. Ani v'kohen chad shiurahu. In fact, the same time that the kohen goes to eat his truma, that's the same time that an ani goes to eat his meal. So it's funny, he doesn't have candles, he has to wait till nightfall, but I guess there's still some type of light that he can eat.
And when does he
According to Rashi.
daven? When does he daven?
When does
When does
the
the
ani
ani daven? You can ask the same
You
question
can
about
daven
the
before or
kohen.
after.
He can't
before
have
and
an
after.
after. He
You can't
doesn't have a
have-
candle. They can't look at his sitter.
He could probably use your rusty brick, it lights up. Or a minute fact Gemara. May masai maschilin licorice krishma barbis. So now we're going to start seeing more shitas. One shita was mishash b'din adam nichnasen lechal piton ba'arvi Shabbos. When people go eat their bread on Erev Shabbos. On Erev Shabbos, people eat earlier, and Rashi has a little bit of a suffix of what that is. We'll see soon in one of the later shitas. So there's one shita that says it's when people go eat their dinner Erev Shabbos, Divrei Meir. Chachamim Maimim Mishah Shakahanim Zakoyin Lechel B'Trumason, from when the Kahan can eat Truma, which is similar to what it says in our Mishnah. Similar Davar says at Rechavim. V'afal Pishen Raya Davar, even though we don't have a Raya that it says at Rechavim, Zecher L'Davar, we do have a Zecher. Shenemar, it was talking about people working. V'anachnu Oisim B'Malacha, these were clearly not union employees because they actually worked all day. And it says, and some of the employees were holding spears. These could have been union guys. If you're ever on the construction site, you have some union guys just standing around holding something but not doing anything, right? So it could be these guys were the union guys, and they did it from Alois at. So you see that was their workday from Alois until Tzeisak Rechavim. And then another pasuk says, at night we were watching, but during the day, malacha, we worked. Why do we need the second pasuk? The first pasuk already told us that their workday was from Alois Shachar until Tzeisak Rechavim. You might think, you might think that just because they worked from Alois until Tzeis, maybe they worked overtime. Maybe really only from nets until Shkia is the workday, but but they decided that they wanted to log overtime hours, so they started early and they ended late. That's why Tashma so it defines it. We only work during the day. We do not work at night. And the timing of when we worked was from Alois until Tzeis, so that clearly is between the combination of both psukim, it tells us clearly that the day is from Alois until Tzeis. At this point, we have now these different timings, so we're trying to figure out what's what. So at first glance, the Gemara wants to say, the ani uvnei adam chad shiuru. So let's say the shiur of when an ani goes to eat his bread, and the shiur of when people go to eat their dinner on Erev Shabbos, let's say that shiur is one and the same. If that's the case, the amrit ani the kohen chad shiuru, if you're going to also say that the ani shiur and the kohen shiur is one shiur, well then, Chachamim Hainu Reb Meir. The Chachamim who say Mishash HaKohanim is a Kohen Lechel B'Trumason in the Brisa, and Reb Meir who says Mishash HaKohanim B'Nechnason Lechel Piton, if both those shiurim are the same shiur as when the ani eats his bread, so then there's no machlokes. Elishma mina ani shiur lechud, the Kohen shiur lechud. It must be that the shiur of ani is different than the shiur of Kohen. Zok tomorrow, no, you don't have a raya. Maybe loy ani the Kohen chat shiuru. Let's say when the ani eats his bread is the same shiur as when the Kohen starts eating truma, but v'ani ubnei adam lav chat shiuru. Maybe the shiur of when people go to eat on the erev Shabbos, maybe that's earlier, and that's not the same shiur as the ani. So now the Gemara wants to challenge ani the Kohen chat shiuru. You still want to maintain that the shiur of ani and shiur of Kohen is the same timing, or a mini? I'll prove to you from another place where it cannot be the same. When we take in Shabbos on the Erev Shabbos, Divrei Rabbi Eliezer. These are the words of Rabbi Eliezer. So that's shita number one. Rabbi Yeshua Omer, Mishash HaKohanim Metuharim Lechal B'Trumosim. When the Kohanim are tar to eat their truma. That seems like our Mishnah. That's shita number two. Rabbi Meir Omer, Mishash HaKohanim Toivlin Lechal B'Trumosim. It's from when the Kohanim toivel, which would be much earlier, of course, right? They're toivel during the day. Amar lo Rabbi Yehuda says that makes no sense at all, because V'aloi Kohanim Mib'oi Joim Heim Toivlin. They want Herav Shemesh, meaning they have to be post Tevila before night comes. So that's for sure during the day. How could you possibly justify that as being nighttime? But that's a third shita. Rab Chanina Omer Misha Sha'ani Nichnas Lechal Pitay B'Melach, which is a shita that we had earlier. It's when the ani goes to eat. And Rabbi Chai for Amilo Rabbi Acha Omer Misha Shiroiv B'nei Adam Nichnas M'Hasev, when most people go to eat. And Rashi says I'm Mesupik in this if it's referring to Erev Shabbos or if it's referring to Chol. And Rashi says, regardless, this shiur is the latest shiur. When people go to eat, that's the latest of them all. Zok Gemara, the Amrit, Ani the Kohen Chat Shiuru. If you're going to say Ani and Kohen is the same shiur, well, we have a problem because our Brachos clearly lists them off as two different shitas. Rabbi Chanina Hainu Rabbi Yeshua, because Rabbi Chanina in this Brisa said that it's Mishash Ani Lachol, and Rabbi Yeshua said it's Mishash HaKohanim. They're arguing with each other, so clearly they can't be saying the same thing. Elalav Shmamina Shiur the Ani Lachod U Shiur the Kohen Lachod Shmamina. It must be these are all individual shiurim. They start somewhere around dusk and they extend into the night. Now that we know Ani and Kohen are two different shiurim, which one is later? It makes more sense to say that Ani is Mu'ucher. Why? The Amrit Ani Muktam, if you can say that Ani is earlier, it would not make any sense, because Reb Chanina Hainu Rabbi Eliezer. What does that mean, Reb Chanina Hainu Rabbi Eliezer? Rabbi Eliezer says, Misha Shekida Shem Bar B'Shabbosos. And Tosfos tells us, we might as well see Tosfos inside. Let's go to the second last Tosfos on the bottom of the Amid. The Ani Kodim, Rabbi Chanina Hani Rabbi Eliezer, V'lei Matzi L'Meimer, the Ani Kodim L'Kiddush Hayom. It wouldn't be logical to say that the shiur of when the Ani starts eating is even earlier than the time where people start taking in Shabbos, because that's mamish during the day. Oy Kiddush Hayom Kodim L'Shir the Ani. Or say that Kiddush Hayom is earlier than that. The Loi Mistaver L'Chalek Kol Kach B'Shiyuris Man Shchiva the Chol Zamanim Alolu Ispei. The range of how early and how late it could be, even though we have a whole bunch of people in between, it's to extend that range so far out, to say that the early time is so much earlier in the day than when people accept the Shabbos, that would be pushing the range too far. So therefore it makes sense to say that the shiur of the Ani has to be after the shiur of the Kohen, because basically it's either Shkia or Tzeis. Anywhere in between doesn't really make sense. The only thing that would make sense is after Tzeis to make it a little bit later. So it doesn't. Once you're going to say it's before Tzeis, the only other time that really makes sense to say is Shkia time, dusk time. To have 5 levels between dusk and Tzeis, there's no place, there's no rational. So that's night. So the only thing that it could possibly mean is later, and therefore you'd have to say that the Ani is later than the Kohen, because the kohen shiur of when night is a little bit earlier in the tzeis process.
So none of these times really are exact. It's never Hanan Nicholas in 7:22.
They are exact,
like
but I don't know if I would be able to quantify them. The art scroll, whoever has an art scroll, actually goes through the 5 shiurim, and he comes out. It could be 5 is really 4, and he goes through them in order of chronology. Mukti, do you have the art scroll there? You have it where he goes through the letter. Maybe it's the next page over, but he summarizes all the times.
No, I know that the times exist. What I'm saying to the Kohanim Nichnasim is fluid. They'll go in usually 5 minutes before, 5:10, 5:20. It's not the same way.
But it's a shiur. No,
different times of the year. It's also
it's going to change, but it's not an exact moment the way we have it today. That's what I mean. Today's Soifsman Kriya.
If they were Litvaks in those days, they would have had a specific time for all those shiurim.
They would have had a specific time.
Of course they would have. What could you read it? What the order is? But he tells you what's the earliest and latest. He goes to what's the earliest. You don't see the summary there? There's a summary. Yeah, so he goes to what the earliest. You can just read it in the order. So what's Rebbe Lezer Shita?
Time of Shabbos comes in.
So that's the earliest,
yeah.
Right? That's what we said. That's why it wouldn't make sense to go earlier than that. Okay.
Mayor.
What is Rebbe Meir Shita?
And they
Right, and it doesn't make sense that there's anything in between, right? That's the same thing we said. That's right. And then the other ones are later. It's a little bit prior to
Mayor is prior to Tzeis.
Okay, Rebbe Meir says when they toivel. That's okay, yeah.
So there is before. There is
Shua.
That's right. And then it comes.
Shua.
And what's your Shua Shita?
When they begin eating Truma.
Okay.
Which is at Tzeis.
Which is what our Mishnah said. Okay.
And Reb Chanina.
There's Ani, which is after taste, which is later.
It's sometime after the appearance of the Tzeis.
So that's the latest.
There's the mayor of the second Brachos.
Which is?
The time that people enter to eat the meal on Shabbos.
Right, and that was the Shiloh with Rashi, okay?
Where does that fit? Right, whether it's just a repeat of another time.
Right. The Shiloh, because the Gemara had a hobby that it was the same time as others.
Right.
Could be the same
Right.
as others. Okay, so those are the orders.
There's F.
What's that?
Achain, some say of Achain.
Right.
Some people enter to eat their evening meal during the week.
That's right. And that might be the latest.
And later.
But we don't have exact pinpoint minutes after Shkia, before Shkia, of what they are. So I don't know exactly what they are.
When does Shkia happen vis-a-vis this?
Shkia is before.
Shkia was before.
Well, it depends on what Shkia is, and that's the
Okay,
next
so
Gemara. What is Shkia? Because there's a very big machlokes as to what Shkia is. And according to Rabbi Yehuda, Shkia is a long period of time. It's from what we call our Shkia, from our sundown, all the way till Tzeis. And that's the period of it. Well, Shkia is our Shkia time. Shkia is our Shkia time, and Ben Shmoshes extends all the way till what we call Tzeis. Rabbi Yossi holds up until Tzeis is pre-Shkia. Shkia is right before Tzeis. It's Keherafayim. It's the second before. Which is the
when the
Yes, but that's a long
Yeah, but
time.
the Shiloh-
Yossi was saying it's 5 minutes.
No, so they explain
So
Shkia
as it's going down.
Shkia can mean when the sun goes below the horizon, but even when the sun's below the horizon, you still see light on the horizon. Or Shkia might mean when there's no light left on the horizon. Well, there's a machlokes. There's a machlokes if that entire period of time is Benish Moshes, or that entire period of time is day, and only the last minute before Tzeis is Benish Moshes, and it's Kerafine. And that's the next Gemara. We can hop around a little bit. Omar Le, Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda told Rabbi Meir, how could you say that you're allowed to lay Krishma when the Kohanim are toiveling? That's day. The Kohanim toivel during the day. And that's for sure not a time where one could take Krishma. Zokt Gemara, Shaper, Kamali, Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Meir. They have a good time. So the way I envision it is Rabbi Yehuda told Rabbi Meir his kasha, and everyone's standing around like this. And what do you say? That's how I envision it. Shaper, Ka'amri, Rabbi Yehuda, Meir. What do you have to say for yourself, Rabbi Meir? For Rabbi Meir, Rabbi Meir says, I have a pasha to teretz. Mi Savris, why were you assuming the ano abein hashmoshes lidach kamina? You think that I hold like you that bein hashmoshes is a long period of time from shkiyat it says ano abein hashmoshes Rabbi Yossi kamina. I'm referring to the bein hashmoshes of Rabbi Yossi, meaning I hold from shkiyah until right before it says is daytime. And the Amar Rabbi Yossi bein hashmoshes keravayin. I know whenever I come to Mincha on Erev Shabbos and I'm late, so I'm gunning my engine and I'm ripping through traffic trying to find a back road around Baker's because Bath is all. I see some Chassidim walking with their towel to the mikveh. No problem. Why? Because what for me is Shkia, which is after Akat Malacha, it's just a suggestion to them. They don't hold that it's not until much later. So he holds that Zen Nichnas V'zeh Yoyti, it's Keherafayim. Day leaves and night comes. The Efshalam Elov, and you can't pinpoint it because it happened so quickly. So come to Chois, Dr. Meir, the daytime that I was referring to is when the Chassidim are going to Likvan on Erev Shabbos, which is long after Shkia, but before it says, that's what I meant. After that point is when you can start saying Krishma. Frankly, more cautious to Reb Meir at Reb Meir, because before Reb Meir said, Rashi says, Mishash the Adam Nechnosan Lechol Piton Ba'arv Shabbosos, and that's a much later shiur than Koyin. And here he says Tefillah. So here Reb Meir says Mishas Tefillah, which is like an earlier shiur. Earlier he said it's Mishas Piton, so Reb Meir cannot say two things. More Trei Tanoi Alibid Reb Meir. In fact, it's Machlokes Tanoim what Reb Meir said. Kasha Reb Eliezer, Reb Eliezer. We also have a problem with a steer in Reb Eliezer because Reb Eliezer in our Mishnah says it's Mishashak Ayhanim because he's only arguing. Right? He said Mishashak Ayhanim, and Reb Eliezer in our Brisa that we just learned says Misha Shekida Sheyim Ba'arv Shabbosos. So it's a steer. Zok Gemara. Either you can say Trei Tanoi Libud Reb Eliezer. It's a machlokes what Reb Eliezer said. V'ba'isema Reisha Lav Reb Eliezer. When you go back to our Mishnah says Me'emos Hakari Shema Ba'arvin. Zok the Mishnah. It starts Misha Shekanim Nechas Lechol B'Trumason and then ends at Soif HaShmur Rishayna. Divi Reb Eliezer. So what is Reb Eliezer saying? Is Reb Eliezer talking about both shiurim, or is Reb Eliezer only talking about at Soif HaShmur Rishayna? So the Gemara wants to suggest that when we are quoting Reb Eliezer in our Mishnah, Reb Eliezer is only commenting on when the time ends to say Krishma, which Soif HaShmur Rishayna. But what the Tana said at the beginning of the Mishnah, Misha Shekanim Nechlas Lechol B'Trumason, that is not Reb Eliezer's Shita. Reb Eliezer didn't comment on that, and Reb Eliezer's Shita himself is really that it's much later than that. It's the Reb Eliezer the Brisa, which holds that it is when Mishash Kiddush Yom Ba'arv Shabbosos.